Hi guys, welcome back to my club's fanfic. Okay, I haven't done any of this one for about a month or so because I was too busy with some college stuff. So I really want to finish all the college stuff, but I really want to get these last two fics out of the way before I can hit the four. But it will probably gonna take me a while for that because I might want to come back. So I need to finish two of these fics and then done. I'm gonna do this first before I get started with everything else. So yeah, I have two more fix that I have to do before we're sending into new four, but that would be very soon. It's gonna take a while for me because I'm still in the college mode today. Anyways, how about hop it? Let's hop on to this. This is probably the last NSFW one shot, but there could be more. There could be more one shot for this. So this next one is called You Got Me Like a Penthouse Week. This is probably the last one or more. I don't know. So this one, I read this before, but I didn't finish it and I just forget it. It's taking too long. But I had to reread some of them again, the very beginning ones, and then I will expect something towards the end of it or something. So let's read what the summary is. By the way, this is okay, this is finding, okay, growing relationship, and sex on the balcony. Yeah. All right, let's read the summary. When he's on stage, Keith is invisible. He's confident, lost in the music, and there's nothing he can't do. Unfortunately, being a rock star does little to help his personal relationships, especially when he gets his tongue tied and nervous around the pretty boy he wants to ask out. Oh yeah, and his resting the face isn't doing him any favors either. With a little shot from his friends, he asked Lance to design the inside of his apartment as an excuse to spend more time with him. Okay, so okay, he is a rock star, I think, presumably that is a rock star, and then Lance is the internal designer. Wants to design something for the apartment. It's somewhat in there. So this is what's gonna be for the only SW that we have left, and then yeah. All right, let's read them.
Warning, this one-shot is not suitable for those who are under 18. Read or listen at your own risk.
You got me like a penthouse suite. Keith has a big, big problem. Sure, let's say he doesn't know how to express his emotions. Allure says he has hermit grumpy face. Matt calls it his murder face. And Pitch calls it resting bit face. Either way, it's a big, big problem. On stage, it's fine. Great, even. On stage, he can take up his guitar, get lost in the music, and let the crowd faces blur in his fear. Nothing but him, his friends, the beat in his bones, the rhythm in his heart, the strings beneath his fingers, and the music in his veins. Up on stage, it doesn't matter what his face is doing. The media and their fans spin it like he's some kind of mysterious tragic soul. He's been called deep. He's been called emo. He's been called cool. He's been called a lot of things. And he's been told most of them are good. Whatever his face does on stage when he plays is good for his image. It's not, however, good for his personal life. Especially when he wants his personal life to include a gorgeous boy who wears every emotion on his sleeve. Freaking blindsides Keith with his smile and leaves him floundering and lost in struggling to form words. Lance comes around often. He's one of Pitch's best friends. And he and Hunk come with her to all of their concerts. And because Pitch is Matt's little sister, and two of them are practically inseparable twins, Paige and her friends make it back into their private rooms to hang out before and after their shows. Lance is something else. He's freaking beautiful. He's funny. He's endearing. He's kind and generous and selfless. He's confident and cocky in all bright places. He's way too freaking out of Keith's league. What had started out as, oh, Pitch has a hot friend, quickly turned to Pitch's hot friend is funny, which is more into I want to tap Pitch's hot friend. And that spiraled particularly into I want to take Pitch's hot friend out on dates and cuddle him on the couch in an attempt to make dinners with him that we ultimately messed up and end up ordering greasy takeout before flipping on the floor and making out in the shower. So yeah, got it bad, and his face really isn't happy. Whenever they're all hanging out backstage, he tries. He really, really does. But everything he says comes out too stilted, too short, too clipped. He thinks he must be scowling too, based on the way Lance frowns at him. But any sort of frustration he feels is directed solely at himself and his inability to have a normal, flippant conversation with a cute boy. It doesn't help that Lance is weird and only him, though he thinks that might be because of his own awkward antagonism and his freaking resting bit face. No matter the reason, Lance treats Matt like an older brother, treats Cheryl like he's some kind of hero or god, straight up flirts with Laura and treats Keith like a rival or something. Always with the snapping comebacks, always with the competitions, always with the poking and prodding, always equipped to clap back when Keith's attempts at flirtation turn sour and mocking. It's not too bad, if he's being honest. At least he gets some of Lance's attention. And if he's being really honest, he likes that Lance can keep up with him, challenge him, treat him somewhat normally, and not with the kind of reverence he gives Cheryl. Still, he wishes there could be something more to it. Sometimes he thinks there might be hope. Sometimes when their competitions and arguments get heated, but there's this playful edge to it that keeps it from getting serious. An edge that has a strange and deep kind of tension of its own. He catches it in a way Lance stops being able to hold back his palm. In a way, those beautiful blue eyes all lit in dark, and he stares at Keith in a way that's far from innocent and makes Keith roll through like a desert storm. Moments where they were shoving each other and turned into some sort of wrestling match. Or they're up in each other's faces, pushing into each other's personal space for no logical reason, other than just to get close. In those moments where he catches that look in Lance's eyes, sees in the way his gaze flickers just briefly to Keith's lips, and he leans in just a fraction more. But then those moments end, usually with Lance pulling away and scaring off to another side of the room. Half the time, he goes to flirt with Laura afterward, and yeah, that's valid. She's beautiful too. They make a good pair. If it hadn't been for those brief moments, he might have been fooled into thinking Lance was straight, but he's just got this feeling, a feeling that stands some sort of chance. If only his face would stop cock blocking him. Okay, so this is where it starts going down because he's having that concert and everybody else to enjoying the music or something. But he cannot stop staring at Lance. Because I don't know why Lance was starting not to be as beautiful as he is, but always been. It took a little bit of moment to about why is Lance there? Why is he so handsome? And yeah, that turned out to be as bad as they thought. But it's not as bad as you think, but it might get worse from here, from this part that I had to read. Well, this part that I read already. So let's get to that next part. See where this will go. As the trio slips out of the room with promises to return after their show, Keith stares wistfully at the door, trying to commit the last view of Lance's butt to memory. Hey, Keith, if you pine any harder, I'm shipping you off to Arizona to join the world's largest pine forest. Keith turns his head, eyes narrowing on where Matt is lounging on the couch opposite him. Eyes on the phone in his hand, the lips quirk into a small. Shut it, Matt. Most people agree that the first step toward a relationship is actually talking to them. Cheryl says, slouch on the couch next to Matt, feet up on the table between the two couches. He holds up his phone, angling it so the four camera face him and Matt. Matt reacts instantly, leaning over and grinding as Cheryl snaps a quick selfie. Then they're both leaning back into response. You could try just asking for his number. He growls, slouching out, legs stretching in front of him. and head slumping onto the back of the couch. The seats next to him are empty, but you can still feel the warmth of where Lance had been sitting next to him. It's not that easy. I could ask it for you. No, Matt just starts it off. Pitch could give it to you. And what would I say? Hey, I've been staring at your butt for months. Want to get dinner? I don't see why not. He groans again, reaching out to rub his eyes before letting his hands drag down his face. If it helps any, I'm pretty sure he said yes. He rolls his head to the side as his hands fall limply into the couch. Laura sits in one of the chairs she hauled over when the couch spots were taken. She sits on it backwards, leaning her arms against the back of the chair, phone in hand, one earbud in one ear while the other dangles. He frowns, feeling a bit of twist in his gut. I think he preferred to go out with you. Blair snorts. It's only a fraction more delicate than that. She looks up at him then, an amused smile tugging at her lips and mischief in her eyes. You really don't know how to read them, do you? Keith's lips purse, eyes narrowed. At his side, he illy rubs his thumb against the inside knuckles of his index and middle fingers. He flirts with you all the time. She rolls her eyes. I'm sure it looks like flirting, but that's just how he looks most of the time. Have you ever actually listened to all of the conversations? No. Well, they're usually about you. He blinks. What? Her grin widens, and she leans back in her chair, phone forgotten as he puts on a surprisingly accurate Lance expression. Hey, Laura, is Keith always this grumpy? So, is Keith seeing anyone? Are him and Shira Fame? Has he always been this talented? Hey, Laura, Keith's pretty hot, right? Why aren't you guys seeing? Does he like dudes? Do you think he flips me on one of the crappy tour bus couches if I asked him? He feels heat creep in the back of his neck, swift and hot, sand burning in his cheeks. He did not say all that. Laura rolls her eyes again, settling back against a chair, pinning him with amused blue eyes. Yes, he did. Maybe not exactly that, but that was the gist of it. I swear to God, Keith, just ask the fucking boy out already. Unable to take the intensity of her gaze any longer. He stares firmly at the table in front of him. Let's press to a small frown. I don't know what I say. Do we need excuses to talk our crushes now? What year is this? Sheer elbows met inside, sitting in good-natured glare before turning a kind of smile to Keith. Why not figure out what he likes and ask him to do that? He shifts in his seat, unable to meet their gazes as he stares holes into the table inside his train. It's not that he doesn't want to ask Lance out. He's really wants to. He gets so tongue-tied around him, and with his track record, he doesn't exactly trust him to do so in a way that gets the "Hey, I want a date and kiss your face" message across. They're telling him to dive right in, but Lance is an incredibly intimidating ocean. It might be the best to wade in slowly, lest he drown. Oh, I have an idea. They all turn to her, sitting up straight with a too bright grin and even to the sparkling in the depths eyes. He's an interior designer. You could hire him to fix up your ratty old apartment and get some alone time with him. It's not ratty. He shares it since it. She rolls her eyes. Please, it looks like the two of you tried to be adults and gave a quarter of the way through. It looks like the apartment of a couple of sophomore college students. Is that a bad thing? Cher asks, turning to Matt. He just shrugs. You got the big screen, the home theater system, right there. That's all I care about. Shiro? He looks over and Keith gives him the best pitiful look he can muster. It's nothing as dramatic as what he's seen Paige and Lance and Laura do, but it's something. And no Shiro has a weakness to him, looking vulnerable and small. Kicks in his protective instincts like nothing else. Is Keith gonna use that to his advantage? Heck yeah, he is. Shiro raised an eyebrow. Are you seriously gonna make me hire your crush to redesign our apartment? He lets his bottom lip stick out a fraction. Let's quiver just slightly. Let's brows furrow and eyes speak for themselves. Shiro just sighs, slumping further into the couch cushions. Fine, but you owe me. So, I mean, Keith is desperate. No, he doesn't know what to say to to Lance that he's in love with him. But Laura, Shiro, and Laura, Shiro, and Matt are trying to get this idea of how can we contact Lance? How are we going to interact more with him? And Laura's got the idea of call him because because he's the interior designer. He designs a lot of things inside the house, in the apartment. So definitely a good idea to contact Lance. Not only he will redesign this whole apartment. You just want it really helps to just spend more time with Keith. Time with Keith. That's a really good idea for that just a bit. Good one, Laura. But is it going to work? We'll see. So, turns out Keith has an arm problem. The problem is that he's a freaking sucker for this boy with a flawless tan skin and deep blue eyes and a smile that could rival the sun. That in and of itself isn't a problem. The wrong part comes when he realizes a little too late. He'd do anything to make that gosh darn gorgeous boy happy. Like given an unlimited budget to go nuts and redesign the entire interior of their apartment. Truthfully, when Lance asks him what their budget is, he's panicked. He sure isn't really talked about that part. That was more or less just an excuse to be alone with Lance and get in his good graces. The actual money spent hadn't been considered. So when he just shrugged and said, whatever, and Lance worried asked if that meant unlimited, and he foolishly said money wasn't an issue. Lance's face lit up. And yeah, okay. So the excitement coming off in a way kind of dulls the regret to non-existence. It's not like he and Cher are hurting for money. Neither of them are high spenders. And their career took up unexpectedly, giving them plenty in the bank with little to use it all. So, yeah, he'll spend some of this to make Lance happy. Lance looked a little surprised when he found Keith in the apartment instead of Shiro, and it flitted across his features perfectly when Keith said Shiro will be gone for most of the day. The surprise faded quickly, though it was replaced with a smile that was far too genuine for Keith's heart, and a quip about how scandalous it is to be alone with a rock star in his penthouse apartment. Keith tried really, really hard not to think too hard about that. He tried and he failed. Now his mind and his imagination are running wild as he dutifully follows Lance around the apartment. Lance talks quickly and excitedly, half the words aloud and the other half mumbled to himself. He's expressive, every bit of contemplation and thoughtfulness and excitement flitted across his features. He talks with his hands the whole time, waving at different aspects of the apartment, resting on his hips, flapping around the air, tapping at his chin. He bounces around quickly from one corner of the apartment to the other, halfway through a thought and a creative vein before he's distracted by something else and he's off again. He looks at everything with sharp eyes and a mind for detail, absorbing everything as it is and babbling about how he imagines it could be. It's adorable, really. This excited bundle of professionalism and almost a childlike glee. One moment his eyes are sharp. This person thought, tapping his chin as he works out the logistics of his creative plan. In the next moment, his eyes light up. He's balancing his feet, and his hands flail around while he talks in half-formed sentences about his ideas. Eyes alight and grin far too wide for Keith's heart to take. Another thing that's far too much for his poor gay heart to take. Lance's butt in those jeans. It should be illegal because, dang, it gets in a gosh darn heart attack whenever Lance gets over. And boy, does he find every little excuse to maneuver. The jeans are dark and tight, clinging to his butt in just the right way, and clinging to his thighs simply. His shirt rides up whenever he bends, giving Keith a little view of the dimples on his back and the curve of his spine, and just how freaking grabbable his hips look. Now Keith will be the first to tell you that he knows nothing about interior design, and he's not one to comment on anyone's creative process. He works best when he's sitting outside at night, with a gentle breeze in his hair and the sounds of nature and the city meeting as one. Matt works best when he's sitting on the couch, upside down, his head hanging off of it, and his base bounced awkwardly in his lap. They all have their things, but it's pretty certain that the process of interior design does not require someone to bend over that much. Yet, here Lance is, finding every excuse to reach for things, stretching out his long torso, making his shirt right up, popping his pretty little butt out on display. And it's not just his butt. Oh no. Lance seems to know exactly how to accentuate every little beautiful thing about his body. And he's doing a dang fine job making sure Keith can appreciate all of it. He stretches his legs, letting Keith know just how long and fit they are, and increasing his urge to sink his teeth into those thighs. He stretches his arms high above his head, letting the little V of his hips show and lean muscle of his abdomen, while simultaneously arching his back just right. He tilts his head to the side, letting Keith's gaze rake down the long column of his neck. And if that weren't enough, there's the lingering touches. Whenever Lance walks past him, touching his arm like it's necessary for Keith to turn around, he moves it gently out of the way and lets those sinful hands linger, running down his arm, his back, along his shoulders, setting little jolts of electricity and heat coursing through. The first couple of times, Keith was able to put it off as his own insatiable thirst and wishful thinking. As it continued, suspicions began to arise that maybe this wasn't all just part of his imagination. And he caught Lance watching. He caught those pretty blue eyes lit in the dark, lips coiled into a small knowing smirk as he caught Keith staring at him. Now he's certain that Lance is doing this on purpose. Oh god, he's done for. He's so freaking done for. Lance is a flippin' ocean, and he's gonna swallow Keith whole. He'll drown, and he'll do so willingly. Still, no matter what kind of game Lance is playing, he is here on the job, and he makes sure he does it. He's got a little notebook in his hand, occasionally jotting things down, and a collar pad wheel shoved in his back pocket. He trails out there as he flits around the penthouse suite from room to room, like a dutiful drooling puppy. Land doesn't seem to mind if that double smirk is anything to go by. He asks key questions as he goes, questions on his and Shio's ideas and opinions for the place, but Key doesn't really have any answers. Through a conversation that feels like verbal wrestling, Lance manages to conclude that both he and Shiro like a neutral color scheme and a vintage aesthetic. Kid isn't entirely sure what that means, but rolls with it. As I was thinking, maybe a giant frame poster of your band right about here, he says, tucking his notebook under his arm to frame a square with fingers from both hands and hold it up to indicate a large bankroll. He peers through the space between his fingers with one eye closed. It's no doubt unnecessary, but it's cute nonetheless. Done up with film grain and stuff, and black and white coloring, so it looks like an old-timey movie poster sort of deal. Keith is already shaking his head. No. Lance dropped his hands, turning to Keith with a surprised blink. No? It's then that Keith realizes he hasn't really said no to any of the Lance ideas yet. He shrugs, crossing his arms over his chest and leaning his hip to the side. He looks away, attempting to look somewhat casual as his heart does little somersaults at being the center of Lance's attention. I don't want any posters of our band. Really? Keith shrugs again, tilting his head to the side at his nose crinkles and his lip curls. It feels a little pretentious. When he looks back at Lance, he's watching him with surprise, which melts into thoughtful amusement as he tilts his head. A chuckle escapes him, and Keith frowns. What? Lance is already shaking his head. Nothing, just nothing. Come on, show me what other rooms you want me to do. When he walks by, he touches Keith's shoulder, letting his fingers trail across them, and Keith can't help but feel like he had said something right. Shiro had said he didn't care how much Lance did, but requested that his room remain untouched. Keith agrees, and while he tells Lance that his room doesn't need a makeover, he can't bring himself to stop the bubbling excitement when Lance says he just wants to peek into his room. Come on, I've never seen a rock star's room before. It's just a room, Lance. But you're a rock star. Keith raised his eyebrow. I thought you weren't a big fan of me. Lance gives a strange look that turns impatient. I never said that. His other brow goes up as he blinks twice. You literally said everyone in the band was cool, except for me. Yeah, well, you were never my biggest fan either. He finds it hard to swallow past the lemons. That's not true. He scratches the back of his neck. His gestures to his room, silently giving Lance permission to peek inside the room once. That's just my face. Pitch calls it resting bit face. Lance hums, pausing with his hand on the doorknob as he looks Keith over appreciative. Yeah, he says something. I'm starting to realize that. The moment Lance steps into his room, Keith regrets giving him permission to do so. He leans his hip against the doorframe, arms crossed over his chest, and hands fisted tight with nerves as he watches Lance walk to the center of his room, turning in a slow circle to take everything in. It's not exactly the room one would expect from a rock star. It's just a room. He has a clustered desk with an impressive desktop setup. That's about where the impressiveness ends. His bag is big but messy, decorated with galaxy print sheets that can be seen where his black furter is pulled back. He's got a large bookshelf that's stocked with all sorts of research books, documentaries, and sci-fi novels. He hopes Lance doesn't look close enough to read the titles. He's got other shelves with knickknacks and action figures and animal skulls. His walls have posters with space and planets, and the one above his head says, I want to believe. There's a large bulletin board on one wall with all sorts of newspaper clippings and handwritten notes and strings to connect them. His cryptic board, which he's just now realizing no one has seen besides Cheryl, Matt, and Paige. Maybe letting Lance in here was a bad idea. And with every second of silence that passes, he feels that regret build and build and build. But when Lance turns so he can see his face, there's no judgment there, no disgust, no carefully hidden confusion, awareness, just soft and open all. It's so unexpected that it has Keith reeling, heart thumping into overtime and stomach doing nauseating flips. You know, Lance says, voice up and powerful, as eyes linger on Keith's clipboard. You're not what I thought you'd be. Keith licks lips, trying to speak past the lump in his throat, and a mouth that's gone sun dry. And what you did expect me to be. He doesn't mean for his voice to be low and hoarse like that. But it's the best he can do while trying to keep it from cracking. Lance hums softly until his chin, exposing a long stretch of his neck. Keith has overwhelming urge to bite into it, to nibble and suck and kiss that skin until it's bruised beneath his lips. Snooty, stuck up, smug, overconfident, pompous, too good for the world. His eyes meet Keith's, half lit and dark in a dimly lit room. He can't help but take a moment to appreciate how good he looks there. Smap half lit and dancing wickedly, intentionally across his lips. Keith's room is nothing grand. It's just a bedroom. But Lance looks like he belongs there. Like he fits among the space paraphernalia and his messy sheets and clothes strewn across the floor. Keith feels himself freeze as Lance slowly stalks toward him, unable to move and barely daring to breathe. Lance stops barely a foot away, close enough that he can feel his body heat. Keith can only watch, helpless and aching as Lance reaches out, illegally picking a spot of lint off his shirt, and Lance's fingers linger before dragging down the curve of his arm. He tries not to lean into the couch, but he doesn't think. He hides the hitch in his breath. Not a space nerd who believes in aliens, Bigfoot, and a Loch Ness monster. There's his teasing tilt to his lips. It's not ridiculous. Not in the slightest. He reacts without really thinking. Responds to the rate. Aliens are definitely real. There's no freaking way our planet is the only one that's developed life forms in the entire universe. Bigfoot is fake, and Nessie is real. And I'm going to go to Scotland one day and find her. Lance smile curls wider. It's cute. Keith lips first, and he'll show himself in the foot before he admits that it's a cop. Lance, however, just chucks, reaching out to tap his finger against Keith's button. Not helping your cause, but definitely helping mine. His finger drops from Keith's lip. Hand pressing against his chest. Light enough to be teasing, but firm enough that he is pretty damn sure he can feel his red heartbeat. You know, he says, voice lowering and chin dropping to watch as his fingers trace patterns on Keith's chest. When he looks up again, it's through his lashes, and Keith can feel the heat and sparks pouring through him from where Lance touches. I also thought the super hot rockstar would have been a lot smoother too. I am smooth. Keith hears himself process, but it's hard to focus on the conversation at hand. All he wants to do is push Lance into his room and down onto his bed. Lance's lips curl, wicked and amused. Oh yeah? Prove it. It's really hard to think with Lance being this close, leaning in so he can practically feel his breath on his lips. Perhaps that's wishful thinking. Either way, he has a hard time coming up with anything to say that might be considered smooth in this situation, or any situation. It's not like he's known for his finesse with words, and he's always been notoriously tongue-tied with answers. So he says the only thing he can think. You're beautiful. Lance blinks, surprised, taken aback as he leans away to his crack, eyes going wide and smile falling as lips go slack. For just a second, he thinks he said something wrong, but in the blush darkness, Lance's cheeks and the fingers on his chest curl into a shirt. I, uh, he blinks. He's never seen Lance close before. Lance clears throat, straining just a little. That wasn't what I was expecting, but he leans again, and this time he can definitely feel his relatives. It did the trick. He feels on this part, eyes fluttering close as his heart slams against his ribs, and his blood sinks through his veins. But before he can feel much else, they hear the front door open, and sure what's going on. Keith! The door slams shut, and two of them jump apart. Keith, I'm home. Is Lance still here? Exchanging sheepish and uncharacteristically shy smiles. Two of them shuffle back out to the living room. Lance breathes Sheer a little too brightly, and Keith can still see the blush hot on his cheeks. When Sheer gives him a curious glance, he just looks away, barely able to stand with his knees feeling like jelly. Lance rambles a few of his ideas past Sheer before excusing himself, saying he has a lot of things to research and a lot of plans to do, but he'll be in touch. Keith walks into the door, and once they're out of Sheer's sight, Lance wastes no time, stepping forward, pressing a quick and chaste kiss to Keith's lips, and slipping his business card onto his pocket. He pulls away with a playful wink, a quick sneeze of his butt, a small smirk, and shyly mumbled, text me. Okay. Oh, I cannot contain this much of a word as well. Oh, so Lance puts out different ideas of what this new apartment's gonna be like. So everything should be redo and everything has a makeover, but he doesn't want his room to be decorated. I mean, it's just a bedroom. It's just nothing else. He already designed that for himself and all in all. But yeah, because he's not a rock star. He's a theorist, I think. I'm assuming that he is a theorist, but I'm not gonna say that. But yeah, he loves mysteries. That's all he wanted to be. But then this feeling is just starting to give panic, and Lance comes over to his room. No, red flag, red flag. It's a problem. We got a problem here. And yeah, he was surrendered for all of this, and then all of a sudden, Shira comes by and say, okay, all right, there's nothing to do here, and just no, here are all the ideas that we're gonna do, and then Lance leaves with the kiss, just one kiss, and the business card. If you wanted to text by, see there's something else you can do, or if any questions that involves around with the design, or it could be something else. No. He finds it hard to function for the next few weeks, and that's mostly due to the fact that he's glued to his phone 24/7. He's never used to be one to be overly attached to it, never one to text off. That is until Lance. Now he's so attuned to it that he's feeling phantom vibrations, constantly glancing at the screen, willing it to light up with his name. His bandmate tease him about it, but he doesn't care. It's easy to tune them out when he's wrapped up in the conversation with Lance. They talk about everything, and yet at the end of the day, it seems like they talk about nothing at all. He's never needs a reason to text him. And Lance learns pretty quickly that he doesn't need a reason to text either. Anything can be a conversation starter, a story, any random detail from their days, any random thought. He likes it. He really, really likes it. And he really freaking likes Lance. He finds it's a lot easier to flirt via text than it is in person. And he finds the best way to flirt is to just be honest. He doesn't need to be coy or sly or come onto him with the finesse and the subtlety that Lance is. He just needs to stay what's on his mind, whatever he happens to think about Lance in any given situation. Lance gets all flustered and tongue-tied. It's cute, really cute. Lance comes over a few more times to get measurements of their apartment and do a few sketches and planning, but he always ends up staying longer than just to hang out. They get wrapped up in dinner. They end up burning their attempts to call a show to bring home takeout. They watch movies. They pick terrible ones and spend all the time making fun of them. They play games and get really competitive, which usually ends up with them kicking and wrestling throw each other off. It usually ends with Lance seeing the permanent kids that for no reason other than they both want them to be there. Okay, and usually they end every night making out on the couch or in Keith's room. This track of who starts it or how it starts, but it always ends up with Lance on top of him and under him. Let's entangle and lips lock while tongues and hands explore. He learns that Lance likes space too, that he loves sci-fi. They actually went to school to be an astrophysicist, but somehow end up in interior design by accident after graduating. He learns Lance loves the beat and has promised to teach Keith how to surf. He learns that he has a cat named Blue and a betta fish named Oregano. He learns that Lance has always been a huge fan of their band and loves watching Keith play, but didn't think Keith liked him very much. Keith makes sure to let him know just how much he likes him, leaving marks all over his skin to prove it. But it comes time for Lance to actually start working on the apartment. He makes them leave, saying he wants it to be a surprise. So he and Sheriff pack a week's worth of clothes and to go stay with Matt. They have to show the weekend that Lance is scheduled to be done. It's somewhat local, just a few hours away in the same state. A festival for charity or something. He wasn't paying that much attention when he explained to him. So he loads up onto the bus with his band and his crew, settles into a seat next stage, and texts Lance for a duration of the journey. Lance the hunk can't make it, but Pidge is there to banter with him and keep him company. They stay in hotels. The show goes off without a hitch and loses itself in the music, and as the show as it always does. And when they're halfway home, when he gets the text from Lance that says he's done and the apartment is ready, when they get back to their cars and go their separate ways, Shield tells them that he's spending nights at Matt's again. He rushes off like they have plans. He knows that it's just giving him privacy. He thanks Cher, grinning a little too bright, and hops on his bike, weaving through dark streets to get home. So this is where all the months after are going to. So Lance is starting to plan on designs in their apartment while everybody else are going away for a show coming by and stay in the hotel and all the such. Yeah. After all months worth of that, somehow Lance texted Keith that it's done. Apartment's done, it's ready to go. And now, whew, it comes down to what's going to be the inside of that apartment. And it's just now Keith coming in to see what this house, what this interior apartment is going to be like. This is the penthouse. It's beautiful. Ooh, cannot wait to see what see what they're doing. What's their makeover of this apartment or something. Who knows? Seeing Lance open the door to his apartment to welcome him home is a strange thing. Strange in form, but sends a thrill and shiver up his spine and heats cascading through. Lance's smile is bright as he stands there in his doorway, one hand on the door and the other on the frame. Eyes soft and lit as he tilts his head to the side just slightly. Pen just enough to let Keith know. He practically ran to the door to beat him to it as he lets out a rush and near breaths. Walking home, he drops his helmet to the ground, which is out there. One hand wrapping around to his lower back, and the other sinking into his hair as he steps forward. Will lands roughly against him and claiming his lips. Lance hums to it, making a pleased little sound as Keith's tongue pushes into his mouth. Lance only lets it go on for a few more heated moments before he's pulling away, lightly smacking Keith's shoulder. Okay, enough of that. Let me show you the apartment, he scolds, with his grin as he does so. Keaton dives in for one last kiss, but he's met with Lance's hand, amusement crinkling in the corner of his eyes. Keith, this is my work. It needs to be appreciated. You can appreciate me after. He rolls his eyes but pulls away, kicking himself into the apartment and tugging off his jacket and shoes before following Lance inside. He gives a grand tour of flare that so quickly lands. Tugs Keith from room to room, give him only a moment to absorb everything before his rambling, pouring out all the ideas he's had and all the tips put into each room. Allow them surprisingly thoughtful, and Keith finds himself smiling in a way that's far too soft and far too fond. Keith Lance whines after catching him staring at him and at the frame pictures he handpicked and hung around the living room. He puts his hands on his hips, popping them to the side while he thoughts. You're not even looking. He smiled wide until smoker. Sorry. You're not. I can tell you that you're not. He scolds with dirty fear. You're lucky. You're cute. He smiled wide until full-blown grin. In all honesty, his apartment looks great. Everything's nice and clean. Shades of black and gray and white with accents of red and purple here and there. The couches and chairs are leather. The tables and shelves are new and shiny and pristine. On the walls and decorations look old and vintage, just like he likes. It's plastic, but not overly so. It suits him and show. The overall design runs the risk of looking too formal, like a penthouse apartment should look when owned by someone rich and famous. A place that looks barely lived in is more for show than comfort. But Lance has managed to take his and Cher's aesthetic and elevate it to a classy level while still keeping all the comforts of home. Mixed into the new are pieces of the old. It's very thorough blanket folded over the back of the new leather couch. Cher's D&D books stacked neatly on a shelf next to an art piece made from old records. Lance managed to seamlessly weave the whole apartment with something modern and aesthetic and grown up. It looks like the actual apartment of a couple of functioning adults who care what's at stake, but while still keeping pieces of who they are. He's actually really happy with it, and no sure will be too, even Laura will approve. And she's got picky taste. Keith stands in the middle of the living room, written a large frame image hung on one of the walls. It's an artistic interpretation of Mafia, black and white and film grain, red eyes, lost amongst the shadows of the forest. He grins. Cher's going to hate that. Yeah? Lance comes up next to him, standing close enough for their arms to brush. And what do you think? I love it. I figure you might. He takes Keith's hand, but unlike the rough grip he used to drag him around the park, this one's just come on, there's one more thing I want to show you. Lance leads him out onto the balcony. There's a couple of chairs there and a table that are new. Nice ones that replace the rickety old lawn chairs Ginger had before. But they aren't what draws his eye. It's the large, really nice looking telescope set up in front of her. You like space so much, but I noticed you didn't have any sort of telescope. And you have like a really good view of stargazing up here. So, yeah. He looks sheepish again, shyly gesturing to the telescope and shuffling his feet. He turns to him, put his hands on Lance's hips, and backs out until his back hits the waist-high wall that surrounds the balcony, and then he kisses him until they're both breathless. Chest heaving when they're pressed together. Keith's thighs shove between Lance, and Lance's leg hikes up around Keith's hip. When Lance pulls back to breathe, Keith slips straight down his jaw, nibbling along the long spans of his neck, and loving the way Lance tilts his head to give him more room. Soft gasps escaping his lips. Fingers tightening his hair, not enough to pull him away, but enough to warn him. What about Shiro? Keith hums deep in his throat, letting his teeth grate against Lance's collarbones. He can feel the full body strength. He won't be home tonight. Stay on Lance. So, we're alone? Am I allowed to show you my appreciation now? He feels Lance stiffen and lifts his head to find him looking around. What? Here? He glances around the balcony, then out to the city beyond. They have a dazzling view of the city lights. Summer is just giving way to fall, and the nights give relief from the heat without getting too cold. He thought about bedding layers over nearly every surface in his apartment, but he failed to consider the balcony. But now he does. Taking Lance out in the open, where no one can see them, but they can see the city below, with stars above and the cold night air under skin. Yes. Lance glanced over his shoulder, humming thoughtfully. Well, it is a good view. He looks back at him, enjoying the flush on his skin and the messiness of his hair, the way his shirt is tugged and pulled in the shovel, the blooming marks on his neck, and the wetness of his lips as his tongue peeks out to lick them. Yes, it is. Lance's eyes snap back to his, darkening and a smile curls in the moonlight. When he pulls Keith in for another kiss, it's a renewed vigor and a lack of carefully constructed control that have been dictating their moments so far. It's far more desperate as he hands grab at each other's clothes, fingers clinging frantically to fabric, nails biting mercilessly to flesh. Their kiss becomes sloppy, far more tongue, teeth, and finesse, driven by the hunger and the rising thrill of anticipation, fueling the fire that's burning low in his guts. Lance makes the sweetest little noises, mewling and gasping softly, desperately as he clings to Keith, turning and rumbling moans as their hips begin to cant, grinding against the unforgiving stone. In my pocket, Lance manages to gasp out as he rubs his thigh against the hardness trapped in Lance's jeans, hands inching up under his shirt to explore, fingers playing idly with the heartbeats of his nipples. He pauses, but then reaches down, adjusting so he can get a hand into Lance's pocket. Lance's hand is toward his back, under his shirt, long fingers groppling and restless. Keith's fingers enclose over two familiar objects, pull them out, pulling back to gaze at them in the light from the window. A small bottle of lube and a condom. Looks to Lance, eyebrow raised. Lance smiles, squirming against him, and shamelessly seeking friction, even as he looks for sheepish. I wasn't sure if you have anything, Keith continues to stare. And Lance's smile quirks a fraction wider. And I was confident in my ability to seduce you? Keith sighs long and loud, letting me trail out vocal. Frick. Dance. His grin is wild wicked. That's the plan. He makes quick work. Drops to his knees and struggles with the button of his jeans for a moment before sliding them his bounce down those long, lean legs, revealing them inch by inch and chasing each one of those inches with his Lance kicks off his jeans and he hooks one leg over his shoulder, lavishing attention on his inner thigh like he's dreaming to win. Lance braces one hand atop the balcony wall and sinks the other onto Keith's hair as he presses one finger to his entrance, slicked with lube. He hears a gentle hiss as he pushes in and kisses along one thigh while his hand rubs the other into Lance's practice. He tries to take his time, tries to stretch him out nice and slow, but it's not long before Lance is squirming against the stone, fingers tugging at Keith's hair, begging for a second finger. He gives it to him, revealing the different sound that escape, loving the way he sounds, loving the way his thighs quiver, clutching tight around his shoulder. He pushes forward as he scissors him open, feeling along Lance's bottom hardness, licking up the shaft before slipping it into it. He can't get a good angle on it, but it doesn't seem to matter. Lance gaps and moans and squirms, babbling encouragements and profanities as Keith slips in a third finger. It's not long after that before Lance starts to beg again, and Keith's a very weak man when it comes to Lance. He pulls his fingers out, standing up and ignoring protest in his knees as he grabs Lance and turns him around, bending him over the waist, high stone wall, pushing his jeans to his thighs. One pull sends him out, already hard and ready to go with just a few short strokes. Calm them on, and Lou reapplied. He leans into Lance, one hand on his waist, pushing his shirt halfway up his torso, other hand lining himself up to Lance's entrance. He watches as he pushes into him, memorizing the way Lance back arches, legs spread, taking him wholly and completely. Tight and hot and wet, Keith's breath hitches, hissing out between his teeth as his hips meet Lance's. Lance squirming when he's bent over his stone. Keith leans into him, pressing his chest to Lance's back as he presses a kiss to his neck. You are so freaking beautiful. Keith, he keens, accented by a gasp, fingers digging into his stone, back arching his push back. Please, move. Keith, please. He starts out slow, feel for it, and honestly, just taking in the sight of themselves sliding in and out of Lance. Beautiful and bent over the balcony banister, with the silhouette twinkling below. He can't hold that pace for long. However, not with how Lance is squirming, pushing back into each thrust and begging for him to go faster, harder, more. And if he asks like that, pleading and broken and desperate, he will give him anything he wants. So it takes him hard and fast, one hand on his hip and the other on his shoulder, holding him bent over the stone rail. Hips snapping quick and rough against Lance, sounds of snapping flesh, and Lance half-formed words louder over the distant sound of traffic below. Lance's ability to form words had left him, but his voice still went, making beautiful sounds that Keith took as encouragement. Keith, however, found his voice, found his thoughts slipping out of him as he lost his own legs. God, you feel so good, so tight, so good, Lance. You're so freaking good. Lance whines, back arching beautifully, head tossed to the side, expression a mess from what Keith can see of his profile. Lance parted his pants and jewels stained the stone. He leans forward, hands slipping from his hip to wrap around him, fingers curling around his neglected and stroke quickly and roughly with each thrust. For me, Lance, I want to hear you. It doesn't take Lance long to reach his limit. Choke cry echoing in a little pocket of the night they have on the balcony of his penthouse suite. He comes over Keith's knuckles, tightening around him. Keith strokes him through it, his own thrust becoming uncoordinated as he's over the edge after him. They stay like that as they come down from their high. Keith leaning on Lance and Lance pressed against the stone railing, both of them panting, both their legs quivering. They hold just long enough for Keith to pull out before they're both sinking to the ground, both a mess. Skin sticky with sweat. Lance ends up somewhat in Keith's lap, leaning back against his chest and head hanging limp on his shoulder. I'm a mess. Lance groans, but his voice is hoarse with purpose. Thoroughly fricked and thoroughly pleased about it. Keith just hums rapidly, arms around him, pressing kisses onto his neck, one hand in his hair and the other trailing his fingers messily through the Lance stone. It was already cooling in the night air. Lance slaps at his hand, but it's as weak as protest hedged by a laugh. Keith, that's disgusting. Keith's hum again, nosing along Lance's ear and mumbles of it. Guess you better stay for a shower then. Guess you better help me, because I'm not sure I can stand it. I can do that. And order some pizza or something. I'm starving. I'll add an order of bread so you can stay the night. Are you priming me to cover you after you my brains out on your penthouse balcony with breadsticks? Depends. Is it working? Hell yes, it is. Oh, sorry. Hell yeah, it is. Now, carry me to the bathroom. Okay, and that's it for that fic. Oh, you got me like a penthouse. Oh boy, the other that part is whoa. Yeah, they did have sex on the balcony. And they did it. I had the feelings together, and boom, ended up having sex on the balcony. Oh, I did say that 3 times, did I? Oh, the panels are messy. But anyways, we are done with that last NSFW fic. Oh, I'm gonna have to close it out for you and stop sharing. Yes, anyways. Wow, that was a really getting in the story. So yeah, all the design things, everything goes around it. It's cool. I mean, it's exactly look like what the penthouse suite looked like. And then the balcony, yeah, it's also beautiful. You can see the city lights, you can see the streets down there. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's pretty, right? It's beautiful. Yeah, living in the city is good as it can be. It's as good as you can get. That's why live there is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay, so I'm just ending that pick, and I have one more one shot that I need to do. And it's a regular one shot this time. It'll be a regular one shot, so fantastic. And the only pick that I have not finished would be, look at it, of misunderstanding sincerities. That's the only pick that I have left, and probably reading that. All right, guys, I'll see you next time for finishing this last pick before I'll move on with the 4 new picks. Man, I have a lot of work to do. Okay, now, goodbye, everyone.